There's a lot of people who will give advice when a person is quitting smoking that they need to do things to replace smoking. And I have two articles that I use at the Freedom Board. And I guess I'm going to point out here what I'm doing now in these newer videos. There are videos that I never bothered making because I had articles covering them. And I'm starting to get a sense that there's numerous people now who are just watching the videos without seeing the articles. And in the past, I think it was the opposite. There were a lot of people who were viewing the articles that were never going to look at videos. And it was like, I think between the two, there's just really good coverage of the information that's necessary. But if you're just working in one format without the other, there's gaps here. So I'm going to try to create videos now on some of the articles that just really weren't covered in video format. There were two strings that I had that addressed what I wanted to cover in this video then. One of them was do whatever it takes to quit smoking, because that's a comment that a lot of people will hear. Do whatever it takes to quit smoking. Use anything imaginable to quit smoking. And that one I always thought was just a senseless piece of advice, because some of the things that people would say, of what you should do, because it's quitting smoking, it's worth doing anything. They would say eat everything in sight, drink as much as you want, take almost any drug imaginable, and it's not necessary. What my feeling has always been was not do whatever it takes to quit smoking. That's not the real key piece of information or advice that people need. It's do what it takes to quit smoking. And what it takes to quit smoking is just don't take a cigarette. It's not a matter of having to do all this other stuff not to take a cigarette. All that's really necessary to do to quit smoking is don't take a cigarette. The other article that we have that discusses it in detail are crutches to quit smoking. And crutches to quit smoking, the one advantage, the one example that I always used when I was doing smoking clinics, I remember I had one time where a woman came into the clinic and she was plastered on day one, just plastered in this clinic. And I don't remember if I said anything the first day. I just thought she probably wasn't going to come back. This is she wasn't unruly on that first session, but when she came in the next session, she was plastered. You could see it. When she came in, she was slurring her words as she was registering, and I said something to her, about her drinking. You know, this really just wasn't right, to be, coming into the clinic with this kind of drinking going on. And she was saying, oh, she was drinking so she wouldn't smoke. And like I say, she came in the first day like this too, so she hadn't actually quit yet, so I don't know that that was a factor. But I said to her, you can't do that. You're going to turn yourself into an alcoholic if you're going to, drink every time you want a cigarette. And she, oh, that's not a problem. She's already an alcoholic. She knew that already, and she just wanted to, to quit smoking, and she was going to drink herself, as much as she wanted to. And again, I tried to make a little bit more of a forceful statement at this point in time, but there were other people coming in, and it just wasn't opportune. I had a line of people trying to register, and this lady who I was hoping she would just, sit quietly in the back, and I would deal with it, after the clinic was over. Well, it got resolved because during the clinic she literally passed out and had to be carried out of the room. And I mean, this was just an extreme example of someone who's using alcohol not the smoke. And that was the last time we saw her at that point in time. And but over the years, I had numerous people who felt like they had to drink after they were quitting smoking. And my general warning, and again, I have this in the alcohol video, is I don't know if people coming in have drinking problems or not, but if they start to substitute alcohol every time they want a cigarette, if they didn't have a drinking problem before, they're going to get one now. Anything you use as a crutch when you quit smoking, you could become psychologically dependent on. And if you pick up a crutch, which doesn't only have the ability to cause psychological dependence, but also has physical dependence capabilities. And again, alcohol does that. Any drug, basically, that's out there, which people say could be, habit forming or have addictive potential. Any one of those drugs, these should not be increased in order to not smoke a cigarette, to take this, this new drug in its place. Again, if you're taking the drug because it was prescribed for other purposes, that's one thing. But if you're using it as a substitute, not the smoke, and if it is a prescribed drug, you shouldn't be increasing your dosage without getting, medical supervision on it either. So, I don't want to start saying that people can't use other substances that they were using for other issues. That's one thing. But once you start increasing the dosage at the time that you quit smoking because you feel like you need this increased dose, that's a different issue. To be very cautious on this idea of using, again, alcohol or drugs in order to not smoke. And then food. If you aren't careful, if you use food every time you want a cigarette, you're going to have an issue down the line trying to break away from that food. One of the common things that I would see people often say in the past, and it pops up on the board every now and then, is things like sunflower seeds. Sunflower seeds are, they're high in fat. You use sunflower seeds as a substitute when you quit smoking, you're going to start piling in calories here. And it's not like when a lot of people think it's, well, just use it to get through the quitting process and then it'll stop. It doesn't usually go that way. Although I do tell people if they really want to substitute something when they quit smoking, use something like celery and carrots. Now, I want to point out why I say this. It's not that there's anything magical in celery and carrots. That's not the issue. It's not that it's going to make the urge go away any different than the other food. What I like about celery and carrots as a substitute is they're very low in calories. Okay, that's not going to be a problem. And people get kind of sick and tired of them over time. It's not going to be like, oh, I got to get rid of carrots today. What do I need to replace it with? It's just one day. You'll look at the carrot and be disgusted by it. You're sick and tired of carrots. I had one guy, he was funny because he went to the store the day he quit smoking. He bought a potato peeler and all the carrots he could find at the store, and he sat there and he carved, not at the store, when he got home, he carved his carrots into little cigarettes. He stuck a groove in where the filter was supposed to be, and whenever he wanted a cigarette in this, early quitting process, he would, take one of these carrots. And it was a standard joke with people who knew the guy, because at work everybody was offering him carrots, and in the beginning he was taking them. He just kept eating carrots after carrots, and again, one day somebody offered him a carrot, and he looked at it and almost threw up from the sight of the carrot. And he was done with it. It wasn't like, oh God, what do I replace it with? He was done with the carrot. But I also got to point out, I had one time, well, I actually had it a few times. It was the first time it happened. It was a winter clinic, and I had this woman coming in who had mentioned to me at some point that she was doing carrots, but I didn't pay attention to it because that was a suggestion I gave. Who every day she was coming in, her complexion kind of was changing, her coloring. And I didn't realize what was going on for a few days. She was literally turning orange. And at first I thought it was wintertime and she was using some sort of bizarre, tanning cream or something that I think was around at that point in time where people can, make themselves look a little more tan. And in the beginning, I thought that's what was going on, but she visibly was turning orange. And she had developed a case of, I think it was called carotene anemia at the time, where she took in so many carrots. And at that point, I actually did start cautioning people that you really could take in too many carrots, and it can alter, you could alter your coloring and cause problems there. Be very careful with substituting anything when you quit smoking. And the real fact is, you don't have to substitute anything. It's just a matter of don't take a cigarette. There are some people who will take up what they call a positive crutch. Now, the best example of what people call a positive crutch is take up something that's kind of good for you, not to smoke, like exercise. This is another one where it sounds good in concept, but there's a problem. You shouldn't exercise to quit smoking. You shouldn't take up exercise to quit smoking. Can you take up exercise when you quit smoking because you like to exercise? Oh, that's fine. Can you take it up because all of a sudden you're able to exercise? In the past you tried to exercise, you try to walk or run half a block, you'd start to wheeze and cough your guts out, you'd realize, oh my God, I can't breathe, and you'd go take a cigarette. I mean, it was a bizarre kind of thing, but it was. You realize you couldn't exercise heavily when you were a smoker, and now that you quit, all of a sudden maybe you can. And is it okay to exercise more in that vein? Well, sure, this is something you wanted to do, and now you're able to do it. But don't exercise or don't take up exercise in order not to smoke. Because if that's your mindset, what'll happen is you'll take up jogging. And jogging is jogging is, it's fine exercise. Okay, but 6 months later, you sprain your ankle, and all of a sudden you can't jog. And your logic that you start to work with is the way you don't smoke is you jog. Now you can't jog. I've got to smoke. All right, that's a problem. Some people, and then other people will have like joint issues that may start up if they take up jogging. And now they get this joint problem and they can't jog. Well, they got to smoke. Well, some people say, okay, well, we'll take up something that won't cause a joint problems. Take up like swimming. Oh, swimming's a wonderful exercise. It's very aerobic. It doesn't have the wear and tear in the joints that jogging has, so maybe more people can do that than who are able to jog. But come on, ear infections. One of the first things that will happen if you get an ear infection, again, months after you quit smoking, one of the first pieces of advice you'll get from your doctor is, well, you can't swim now during this ear infection. And now your logic is the way you don't smoke is you swim. You've got this advice from your doctor is you can't swim. You have now effectively lost what was your positive crutch. And again, the whole premise, the whole problem was it was the crutch, not the smoke. It's not available to you now. The way I don't smoke is I do this. I can't do this. The logical answer at that moment in time then is I've got to smoke. So that's another example of where you got to be careful of replacing a crutch, even though it may not be a crutch that you would call bad for you. It's something that's good for you. But if the mindset is I use this not to smoke, it's a problem in order to sustain a long-term quit. There is one thing that I did advise people if they were going to develop a crutch. There's only one thing that I think fits the criteria of what is a safe crutch. And what I mean by safe, meaning it's always available to them. See, this was a problem of something like going for a drink of water as a crutch. A drink of water sounds harmless. It does. But if it becomes your crutch to not smoke, there's an issue. The issue is one day you might be like, minding your own business, walking in the middle of a forest preserve path, very nice day. You're off for weeks or off for months. You're not thinking about cigarettes. Your quit is secure as far as you're concerned. You're doing good. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the path, you find a pack of cigarettes. Your brand. A lighter is there. No one's around. This is a perfect, storm situation. It's like, oh my gosh. You can smoke that cigarette. It's there, and all of a sudden you really want the cigarette. You've got the urge, and now you start to think you'll have to use your crutch, just what you used when you first got off. So okay, all you have to do is use your crutch now, and your crutch is go for a drink of water. You're in the middle of a forest preserve. You don't have water with you. You look north. You look south. You look east. You look west. There's not a water fountain or anything in sight. You can panic. You can start to think the way you don't smoke is you go for water. There's no water. You got to smoke. You're in trouble at that point in time. You could lose your quit because you don't have what you had now turned into and accepted as your crutch. If you're going to develop anything as a crutch, the only thing I suggest is deep breathing. And the reason I like deep breathing as not really as a crutch, but as a replacement behavior is deep breathing has a calming effect in its own right. So that's a nice thing. If you just take a few deep breaths. When you think about self-hypnosis, when you think about yoga, a lot of these things are teaching you how to deep breathe. So, and again, it has a calming effect in its own right. So deep breathing is nice because you can do it anywhere, anytime you want. You always have the ability, hopefully, to take a deep breath. The day you have to stop breathing, well, you can kind of smoke that day. It doesn't make a difference anymore. But up to that point, you're able to breathe, hopefully, for the rest of your life. So it's always available to you. And again, it has this calming effect in its own right. The other nice thing about deep breathing is a few days after you quit, a few weeks after you quit, all of a sudden you'll start to realize, oh my gosh, you could take a deep, deep breath and not get a tail in pain like you maybe used to get. Or not get a wheeze like you used to get. And not only have you now calmed yourself down, but you're starting to see a benefit from having taken a deep breath that you couldn't take before. You start to realize, oh my gosh, when I was smoking, I couldn't do that. So not only did you calm yourself down a little bit, but you reinforced another reason not to smoke. You breathe better. You don't get this tail end pain. You don't get a cough. You don't get a wheeze. You're breathing better because you quit smoking. So deep breathing has that really nice little, perk to it of being able to do it better and recognizing that you're healthier than you were when you were a smoker, which helps to reinforce your reason for having quit smoking. And that's really what you want to do when you get your thoughts for cigarettes. And again, a lot of people, what they try to do when they think about a cigarette is they try not to think about it. Do the opposite. Try to think about it. Try to think about them. Try to remember cigarettes exactly how they really were at the end and all the problems that they were presenting. And again, this was a problem where you couldn't take a deep breath without having a consequence to it. And the more you can see cigarettes in their entirety, again, seeing the package deal of being a smoker, the more you'll realize you don't want to go back to that way of life again. You don't want to go back to those consequences. And it just becomes another piece of ammunition in your arsenal of not to be a smoker again. So, summing up here, be very careful with any kind of substitution. If you're going to develop a substitution, do one that you will get sick and tired of quickly. Don't do it with the idea that I've got to do this forever, because if you do it forever, you're stuck. You're stuck with something which may not be available at certain points in time for one reason or another. You may not be able to do it. And the fact is, it wasn't necessary in the beginning. And if you are going to develop any kind of behavior pattern change, and one, again, that is always available to you, deep breathing is the one to go with on there. And to see that perk of not smoking, be able to breathe better. To keep your quit going, it's not a matter of taking something in its place, doing another activity in its place. To keep your quit going, all you need to do is to stick to this personal commitment you made to never take another puff.